Welcome, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745, and we're going to be testing my mod Third Reich Events with Black Ice 10.43. Now, I know I've just started Barbarossa, but we're going to be taking a look at this, and I will be continuing to release Barbarossa episodes. But I need to test this, and I thought I would test this Saturday morning with all of you guys, and you guys can put your input on things, and we're going to see if this works. So just to let you know, I have played a little bit of this just to make sure it isn't crashing upon starting and whatnot. So I know that, but not much beyond that. And we are going to have 8 brigade divisions in this. We can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And still we have room once. Now I am planning to have a text. This is still here, and I moved back in allow 8 brigades, so you can start doing this at immediately. I'm thinking of having an event thing just for the certain majors to put that in, but that hasn't been done yet, and I have yet to do the EULA coding to have the AI build 8 brigade divisions for the right countries, primarily the USA, Britain. Those are the two primary ones. Italy and the Soviets, generally speaking, had weak divisional strengths, and Japan, although had large divisions, they didn't have a lot of supporting units. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do for Japan. And I want to say a big thank you to D-Safe. He has been very helpful. He's given me an example of code to use in the EULA coding, so that I'm hard coding the AI to make certain types of divisions. He gave me the code to do an 8 brigade, or alternatively, if it's not allowed to do 8 brigades, it will do 7 brigade Marine Corps divisions. But it's just designing like a good armored division, a good mechanized division, a good infantry division for the U.S. And they will crank them out as 8 brigade divisions. Remember, historically, the U.S. decided to max its deployed outside of the United States war commitment to 100 divisions, not because they didn't have the manpower, not because they didn't have the production, it was the shipping. And remember, they were shipping, Lend-Lease supplies all over the world. They were shipping huge, these are Liberty ships, shipping huge amounts of food all over the world, keeping Britain fed and things like that. And so all of their transport commitment, they thought they could effectively deploy somewhere in the world up to 100 divisions, including places like Burma, the Pacific, Europe, and all of that. So it's better, and the U.S. can get to the situation where it's running out of manpower. And so it is better, in my opinion, for the AI to make fewer, stronger divisions, because the thing that's here that's going to eat the most manpower is, of course, the main regiment or brigade or whatever you want to call it there. And so throwing on an extra support division or brigade into the unit would be better playing balance, more historical, better playing balance. So yeah, I have not gone through and done that for the nations yet. This is more of a look at just to see how all of the events and everything are working. So just letting you know that this is not ready yet for release. We're getting there. This is sort of like alpha or beta or alpha beta. some grocery store that's, I think, still around here in America. So we will do the black ice start here. Again, I'm just doing everything. I have played on hard before, but right now we're just playing on normal just to test stuff out. And yes, you have to go, when you're testing, you have to go through all of this every time. You can't make a save like after you've done all of the, initial first clicks, because once you edit anything, it has to freshly load it in, or it doesn't, the saves don't go the changes short term first year. So yeah, you can imagine how many times I've gone through all of this. All right, okay. Now we're also going to see about, let's come to France. Okay, they have some money. So let's sell them a lot of supplies. There we go. Before we get on everybody's, naughty list here, by reoccupying the Rhineland, Soviets. Does Sweden want supplies? Maybe. It'd be nice to get. Yeah. United Kingdom. USA. Not quite as much money yet. So we're going to do that. Romania, maybe. Okay. Not trying to max everything out, just trying to get be the supplier to various countries. Hungary, do Hungary want a little bit of? I really don't have much money right now, but nice, just diplomatically. Finland, again, not much money, but maybe. There we go. Australia. Right, that looks, oh, what about Japan? Get some trade going with Japan. Okay, that looks good for the initial set of trading. Okay, we're going to do strategic resource trade option here. We'll see how well that works out currently. And let's do some of the difficulty settings. Just normal and everything. For right now, this testing. Not meant to give anybody a challenge, particularly me at the time. There we go. Okay. Let me just hit let's save this. Did that save that fast? Wow. Okay, good. Guess the file is still fairly small. Now, yeah, let's just do this now. Reich economics. Well, we should have waited just a little. Well, probably wouldn't matter. Okay, politics. What do you see here? Adolf Hitler, Führer of the Third Reich. Rudolf Hess, Deputy Führer. Konstantin von Roth, Außenminister. Werner von Blomberg, Reichswehrminister. We have the Third Reich event minister types, and not the rather bad generic ones. Okay, armaments minister. We want to put Schacht, Elmar Schacht in charge. Minister of Security. Now, I've left him here. I've debated whether we should move, whether Joseph Goebbels should be allowed to be head of security. I believe at this time he is still Gauleiter for Berlin area. I know he was Gauleiter for Berlin. I don't know if he still was, as well as propaganda minister. Really, the choices should be, and I don't know if this is also too early for Reinhard Heydrich. Himmler comes along later as available. Frick is definitely as Reichsminister des Intern. You could even stretch it because Goering was briefly Reichsminister. Well, no, was Prussian Ministry of the Interior, which controlled the Prussian police, and then sort of controlling it as the president of Prussia, which I think he still is at this time. But that's just like the state of Prussia, not East Prussia, but Prussia, which controls East Prussia, controls around Berlin area, controls some area out here in the west of Germany. It's weird patchwork still. So Goering could even, because Goering for a while was in charge of the Gestapo before it was put under the SS. But by this time, by 1936, all of the police are actually under Himmler. So I don't know why Himmler doesn't start as one of the options, but we're going to do this just because it is. And I've debated whether I should move that out. Okay, now we have the new ministers of science. Bernard Rust, look, I'm going to criticize the development team, and I'm like I say, I'm loving the support and help from DSafe. And I know that there's just a few people and they're dealing with the whole game, the whole global thing, where I'm just looking at Germany and things so that I can focus a little more on things than they can. So I can do things in a little more detailed. But I'm going to criticize them. And again, I hope they don't take it personally. I like the guys. I think you should like the guys. I think they're very hardworking and they do a lot of work. So just keep that in mind. But why, when they come and they add something like Minister of Science, do they not include the German Minister of Science and Education and Culture? I mean, it's the ministry. It's one ministry, but it includes, and then it's Science, Education, and Culture. But he is the Minister of Science. They don't. Bernard Rust, Reich Ministerium. I don't know how to pronounce this stuff. And I gave more or less what I thought his stats, just, wild ass guesses, should be. Research efficiency down 5%. Leadership modifier down 2%. Now we could talk about reducing those even more. Consumer goods during peacetime up 1%. Ruling party support, get a lot more ruling party support with him. Now, why is his research efficiency so bad? Well, see, once he gets in power, and I think it's 33, if not by 34, he's in power, and he wants to get rid of Jewish science. remove Jewish science from the Reich. Please note what I'm saying. Not get rid of Jewish scientists, get rid of Jewish science. Well, he also wants to get rid of Jewish scientists too. It's that he believes things that are come up science-wise by Jews are somehow bad, and so Jewish science is bad, and that's what they actually call an area of science border science, and he wants to promote, along with others, more border science. Now, border science is science just on the border of science. Huh? Well, it's things that you can't quite scientifically measure, but we know are true. One of the things that they promote big time is dowsing, where you like water finding with twigs or pendulums, that kind of thing. Oh, during the war, under the Navy, they have a group of dowsers out there that are dowsing to find out where the American convoys are, and to be able to send the subs to, or where the sub hunters are to leave, and where the enemy battleships are. They're doing all this kind of weird, wacky, science type stuff that they're promoting up, and things that have been written about, developed by Jewish scientists. Oh, that's bad. We can't do that stuff. Hey, thanks for hosting now, Arno. Good to have you here, my friend. So, yeah, just because a Jewish person, presumably most in this day and age men, come up with something, it must be bad, and Jewish science is bad. So, yeah, that's why leadership down, driving all the Jewish scientists and thinkers out of Germany. Research efficiency, because they're researching spiritualism. Yeah. And whatnot. So, yeah, he put him here at start because he was, and you can keep him here. But there are other choices. Now, again, I'm going to criticize, for some reason, a bunch of German intelligence minister options got just switched over to being science ministers. I don't understand why. Not just both, but got switched over to being science ministers. God, I don't know why. And because I'm using my leadership, or my minister files instead of theirs. That's not happening. But I did go in and look at some of their stuff. Now, I've left in, but I've changed it. They did have a special Willie Messerschmitt, and so it's there. They have him with jet practical. Okay, mostly, because these are generic ones. Money down. And mostly the science ministers are practical decay minister, reducing practical decays. I think the idea of a science minister is cool. It looks more to me like an alternative production minister, the way it's done. But I've done my best. So these guys, they added, fine, they're still here and they're generic. I removed jets from Messerschmitt, and I've given jet engine practical decay over to Ernst Heinkel and created the special Ernst Heinkel Flugzeugwerk. That's the name of his thing, because he was the one that was actually promoting the development of the jet engine, actually paying for it and developing, hey, here's this prototype jet fighter, Luftwaffe, don't you want it? And they're going, nah, for the longest time. And he's pushing jets on them, and they're going, nah, no. It was not until late in the war that the Luftwaffe really starts to take a look at it. And Heinkel has the first, I think, practical jet fighter going on in the Reich. and it's just not that much better. So the Luftwaffe passes on it, and then it goes eventually to the 262, which then is it's almost a year's delay, made by Messerschmitt, but he doesn't develop the engines. He develops the airframe, and so I also gave him, medium bomber practical decay because the Heinkel bombers not so much, but I've left that in. I don't know. So those two are your good choices. If you want to do naval, this guy is in charge of the Schiffbau Technische Gesellschaft at this time, which is a you can see minor practical decay for a lot of for the surface ship. Sort of the overall research group that encompasses and actually gets another research center when they take over Austria, left over from the old Austro-Hungarian Empire, of sort of all the maritime naval architecture, research, scientific. He's in charge of that. Now, I've included other ones that you do not see here just because they're not available yet. One or two that are like in 1942 or come available in 1939. But we're going to start right now with Willy Messerschmitt for our Minister of Science. I think that's all we're going to really be changing at the moment. Just give you an explanation of some of the stuff we are doing here. Okay. Leader's backstory. Skip this altogether. I don't like that. It's sort of a cool idea, but I just never went for it. More of a historically based player. Military Academy. Rail and road networks, which are going to art production. Okay. Let's see if this works right. Yes, good. I was causing a mistake earlier when I was testing this just to see if it would start without crashing. Okay, yep, good. So if anybody in chat, hi everyone out there again, has a question, a suggestion, please post it. Okay, so reoccupation of the right leg. And what this is doing, as you can see here, they've sort of blocked off till I do this here, because we can look here and they have infrastructure level 1, which means you can't go into it. So they keep you out of it de facto. Well, there's a 0% chance of getting war. But I want to go through a day before. Okay, yeah, I wanted to get all these either accepted or not. All accepted, good. And now we will lift the blockade, because that will make people unhappy with us. Right, and let's also come do this right now. Starting our industrial buildup. No, not there, at least not yet, probably later. Focus wherever we have heavy industry. Focus our production there. I think we will later get a heavy industry there, but we'll start where we have it. I forget where I just put it. Well, here we go. Okay, and we're going to move all this to the top. To the top you go. There we go. Okay, we'll do the mixed support brigades in a moment. Let's, well, we want officers, but we don't need that much just yet. Diplomacy, of course, we don't need that much, but we want to build up a bit of a reserve. So we'll do that, lock that down, and similarly for spying. We wanted FU so that we can build up our spies. Okay. Now, let's see, 1934. Good. Get industry going. We'll get seaport capacity going. Yeah, we'll do radios, I guess. Now, let's get some of our tank designs worked on. Artillery brigades, high density alloys. Infantry developed. Controllable pitch. Tellers, yes, please. Some of our submarines being developed. New ships. Let's capital ship engines. Let's see, are we? Yeah, let's do these at the time. Okay, we're at 30. Last year, here we go, 31. 34. And yes, let's do this. Start research there. Okay, mixed support brigade. Start. Motorized choice. Okay. Well, for the motorized brigade, we are going to be able to build shortly 10 or 8 brigade divisions. Let's look at engineers still. Engineers. Reconnaissance. Artillery. An anti air, I think. There we go. And for our regular, just walking infantry, Let's do engineers also. Let's do artillery. Artillery engineers. Anti-air. Engineers. No, no. Reconnaissance or anti-tank. No, we'll do anti-tank. Not maybe the best choices all around. Okay. So let's go with this here. Yeah, that's all up there. Let's make that. Right, we've got a bunch of stuff's happening here. Road networks, capital ships, tanks, all right. All these various things. Okay, that last thing wasn't good. That may be my problem with TRE. Activate this unit, yes. Okay, I've got to budget reserves. I got to see about what that is because I need to make sure that isn't happening. Yes, please. And we'll do the big ones. Wordhoff, scripted invasions, okay. Trade off with Soviet Union. We'll give them money. Yes, we have lots of money for rare materials. Thank you, please. Now that it's readjusted a little bit. Unlock those, at least that particularly. So well, let's come over here. We protection, screws, radar, optimization. Get a little bit of this done. If I'm going to do it, it's best to do it early, not later. So we'll do that now. Okay, well, we can now move into here, and we can move into there. Okay, I think we want to do heavy aircraft, gasoline engine, welded armor. We're going to do the cemented steel, and I think flows. These I think are closest to the historical. Okay. All right. Shortages, resource ship armor. Okay, Mussolini. Okay, one of the first events here from TRE, Mussolini supports Austria. Mussolini has long supported the fascist, supported fascist Austria along with France and Britain along with under the Winterlandschützfront (VF), whose leader was Engelbert Dollfuss until he was assassinated by Austrian Nazis. I think that's in 1934. After this, Mussolini increased his support of Kurt Schuschnigg's government of Austria and worked to block German advances in Austria, with France and Britain opposing Italy's war with Ethiopia. What will be the future of German-Italian relations? Okay, so this is rather important, is that at the beginning of 1935 and definitely, at the beginning of 1936, but definitely at the midpoint of 1935, Mussolini is pursuing an anti-German, an anti-Nazi path, and trying to block. And we want to do historical division upgrades. Yes, there we go. Block their German expansion to the south. Okay, now we can do reoccupation of Rhineland, which will help us out even more. More national unity gains more popularity. We're now at high popularity. I think we're going to lower this even a little bit, just a little more. Um, it's a little too far forward to research now, I think. Reorganize the war ministry. No, I don't like those events. Okay, are we not producing? We are producing way more than needed. Just being dumped into the system probably. Hopefully that'll be solved before 22 days are up. Mussolini is dead, New York Times. Okay, well, that is not a good thing here. No, let's look at ministers. Okay, I think I know what's the problem here. We may need to, we will be needing to restart, I'm sure. Let me come in and look at something here. Well, if this doesn't crash, you may go to black screen. This is why it needs to be tested, because I had somebody who's testing and saying things were okay. Don't know what exactly, maybe just testing it if they started. Okay, go into here. I don't know why it does that. I wish it didn't. Okay, okay, no, it's not there. I didn't think it was, but I needed to look. Countries, Germany. Weimar, Hungary. like this, that. Why is this doing what it's doing? Let me look. Because that is, it wasn't happening earlier that I was seeing. Um, well, hmm, just making sure we have an Italy. All right. I noticed. Mussolini, correct. Huh. That looks right. Right now I'm looking in the files for Black Ice Country, mod history. Hmm, what the? Oh, no, I'm looking the no, I'm looking in the wrong spot. Then. You better if I look in the right spot. Yeah, okay. Here we go. Wow, I don't understand what is going on here. Okay, so diplomacy, right, is at war with Albania. Intelligence, production, we're not getting. And ministers looks like it's wacky. Let's see if I look over at France. Intel. Ministers, that's looking good. Intelligent, ministers, that's looking good. Why are we getting... Let's just go bet. Intel, ministers, looking fine. Yes, it goes off here because we now have research specialists. Tibet, yes, Tibet has a science ministry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, well, here they are. Head of government. So I guess Mussolini somehow died? Well, okay, I guess we'll continue. How did he die? I know it gave the sort of death Patachi girlfriend in the war thing. Well, we'll just continue a little bit more on with this. We would give them money, yes, for some rare materials. So they don't have another head of government option. Well, I don't think that was happening because of given the adventure choice. Yes, we want to do those. Yes, 8. Is this going to work? Yes. 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 Oh, gotta remember, I'm over here. Click right there, and then no upgrades for the whole. We don't want to upgrade those. We want to keep them unupgraded. Don't waste your money on that. Oh. Okay, Franz von Papen. Good. These are working. Confirm him in office. He's down in Austria. Trying to convince him to become German. 11 days, right. We are still massively producing extra supplies. I'm just going to dump a huge more into, I don't want to go negative even for a moment. So we're going to dump massive amounts of all production supplies for the moment. Especially now it's sort of, well, what? I got to supply all these SA units? Yep. First training, good. Okay, there we go. A little bit of positive. Third Reich Events. Some of that infrastructure is going down. Well, most of the infrastructure is coming up. Though, of course, the fortifications are being lost. Right. Well, we should already know. Let's. Okay, I think we can come to mixed industry, and still keep it. Yes, and historical buildup of the Luftwaffe. Okay, let's get back to something more rational. Yes, Turkey, you can have some metal. Hello, Ragar. How you doing? They're all blocked from upgrading. Okay. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We just had a situation here somehow. Mussolini died in charge of Italy. Now, okay, now we have this other guy here. Okay, well, Mussolini's dead. How this happened, I don't know. Okay, don't think it's Third Reich Events related. Okay, radio in every house. Mission to Hanover. Okay, we want to buy that is, from maybe the Soviets, some rare materials. We are currently down by 10. Let's get a little bit extra because we have the money. Now, France decided Italy invasion isn't sufficient reason to capitulate, and rather decided to create an Anglo-French union and continue to fight. Okay. Yeah, that could be bad. I mean, what's wrong with the world? The French did not capitulate. We would give them money for crude oil. Um. mm, okay, Iran. Let's also see about buying some oil from the United States. Yeah. Wonder how Mussolini died. Was he somehow put in command of a unit or something? I don't know. We were giving them money for crude oil. Uh, well, we could use more crude oil. We're not yet getting that for that. Um, who else might we sell supplies to? Or supplies to? Soviet Union some more supplies? No, not right at this moment. Japan, they got extra money. See if we can sell them some supplies, very likely. Okay, and their money situation is 18. So let's go something like that. Um, no, don't have trade links to there. Iran. Might they want supplies? Might want negative crude because they are, you know, yeah. Let's see if that works. Okay, that will pay for. Um, yeah, El Duce is dead. Does that mean Italy just becomes 190% more dangerous? I don't know. We'll accept this. Don't know why he died. There are, and what we sort of saw there, if you lose, well, I think we can come down here. Um, you see these political leaders here. If somehow you lose one of these units that gets killed, um, bad things happen. It depends on who it is and how bad it is. Obviously, Hitler very bad, but these other leaders, so they're units like this. I know they add immersion. I'm generally in favor of immersion, of course. And we can see here, you know, if you lose, now this is a political leader, but it's an HQ, yeah, in essence, Oberbefehl Schaber des Heers. If you have that unit or Yodel or Keitel, if you lose these units, bad things start happening. And I'm guessing that's what happened in Italy, and I don't know why. At first, I thought it was somehow to do, and it may still be, but not that I know of, something to do with TRE, but not that I know of. Interesting comment about does that mean Italy just became more dangerous? I don't know that Mussolini was, you know, not because I don't want that ineffective of a leader for Italy. I think militarily, I think the army leadership just really sucked in Italy. Um, I think militarily or production wise, Italy just sunk really badly. So I think it's a lot of things other than. Let's save this so if we continue this, I don't have to redo everything. I would Italy's failure in World War II. I think the highest or the biggest reasons for its failure. Hitler was assassinated in my game. Goering replaced him and promised revenge against the UK for assassinating German leaders. You need to create some kind of replacement leader in case. Yeah. I'd have to look into that. Maybe my friend Pavolini could tell me who he thinks would take over and when. Yes, you may have energy. Let me. Okay. I think the biggest reason Italy fails in World War II, the biggest reason, not the only reason, the biggest reason is production. Italy was incapable of producing weapons and munitions, armaments and munitions. Armaments are things that shoot. Munitions are the things that are shot. So it's the guns and the bullets. That I think is the biggest. The second biggest is the leadership, and that's at all levels, including NCO levels leadership, junior officers, mid-level officers, and top-level officers. I think that is the biggest element, or the second biggest element, because I'm not saying they did, but if you have, and they did have some very well trained units. You have some very well trained, or you have competent, good soldiers, and you constantly have them with bad leadership. And I'm presuming all of you seen the series Band of Brothers. If you haven't, go out and see it. And the David Schwimmel or whatever his name character, the first sort of officer in charge of them, they worked to get rid of him because all these paratroopers just had no confidence in him, and they get him gone. Now he shows up later as some sort of staff officer, and that character and person that he's playing in real life may have been a very effective staff officer, planning, but getting out there and reading a compass and leading men through the field, he could be completely pathetic. So you can have some of the best paratroopers in the world, but you put idiots in charge of them. The soldiers are not going to have fear of trauma. Then glorious Italy leader gets into high position gamer. Hello, Francesco Macedino. Sorry, I'm probably butchering that. What do you think of the theory that Barbarossa was mainly preemptive strike against the Soviet Union? I'll get to that in just a quick moment, but that is a very good question. So, however good your soldiers are, if they have zero confidence in their leadership, they're not going to fight well. And third, I would be the, shall we say, national motivation to fight in the war is very low in Italy. There's a lot of support for the fascists, but fascists do not have, they don't have, the support that the Nazis did. So yeah, a lot of people don't want to die for either empire or don't want to die fighting the Americans, the British, who they've been allies with in the last war, who a lot of Italians either had relatives or knew somebody who had relatives living in America who may be fighting against them. So there's a lot of reasons why the Italians don't fight very well in it. Okay, Barbarossa. Mostly held dubious types nowadays. But you had serious historians defending the idea, like Okay, yeah. Okay, first off, Willie Messerschmitt is a genius. Well, he probably was. And to me, that looks like a post-war photo, but maybe not. I don't know. Just the clothing is more post-war, but maybe that's the heavy industry in Potsdam. Expand factories. Good. Motorized support. We'll do heavy. Well, we can look here. Let's take a quick look. This tells you here what each of these sort of do. Motorized, heavy, anti-air. Okay, so max speed is down for motorized, but we have heart attack up. And yeah, I'll get to things, but I'll get back to Barbarossa, but we got to look here. We're here, not more heart attack, but speed actually increases. Anti-air. Well, I'm going to keep speed up. It's good to have that there to see. We're going to do artillery focus. We're going to do anti-tank focus. We're going to do, this is for mixed support, standard mixed support. Basic artillery, where's artillery? Okay, artillery, no, it's motorized. Oh, here, okay, artillery. And we're just going to do regular. I hardly read all that. Was the Soviet, okay, I guess there's two questions in what Francisco's asking. What do you think of the theory that Barbarossa was mainly a preemptive strike against the Soviet Union? Okay, well, there's two questions there. Was the Soviet Union going to invade Germany or not? Two, did Hitler and the Nazis, think Stalin was going to invade? So you can have a situation in which Stalin may be thinking, and the Soviet high command may be thinking, in no God possible given way where we're going to start a war with Hitler. But Hitler may think, oh, the Soviets are going to attack us at any moment. We've got a preemptive do with it. Okay. So, there's perception and reality. I believe Stalin was an opportunist when it comes to things like declaring war. Hitler was an ideologue. He was both an opportunist and an ideologue. Hitler wants to go east. That is, his ideology is to go east. Stalin is a communist, most assuredly. He is trying his best to implement communism worldwide, and that is why, but he is also a paranoid control freak. That is why he controls all of, and we're going to stop smoking. And we want to do that, and we want to do that, and we want to do that. We're going to do appease them. Let's look at revolt risk right now. Okay, so since we have the essay everywhere, we're doing pretty good with revolt risk, but we're going to do the historical appease them. Consumer goods to peacetime up a lot. Okay, we're going to, this one, look here. It's still at 0. Let's see once we do this. Are we still at 0? Nope, we're at 9. Almost 9 at least. So Stalin makes sure that he controls all of the Communist Party in exile. So he'll send out his Cheka. I don't know. I disagree. Stalin was not an isolationist as a... I have to prepare a budget. Okay, I've got to make sure those things go away. Gotta look into that. Yes, I'm not going into these. We are going to, he will be remembered. Okay, now this is what, the second time we've got this. This is like firing repeatedly. And expand our factory. So, heavy industry and Cologne. That seems like it's firing a lot. So he gets his Cheka or whoever to go the secret police to control all communist parties everywhere. So if he doesn't control the Communist Party somewhere, he will. Yeah, okay. Third time, build the facility. And we need to make sure we come here and move it to the top. These are the fake ships, right? Okay. And what are we researching? Machine guns. Too far forward. Okay, that is here. More so than he doesn't care who the leader of a monarchist party is in some country. He cares who the Communist Party leader is, and so they'll assassinate anybody more classical Asiatic imperialist. Well, yeah, because he is trying to expand wherever he can. And so I think he's worried, and he's worried about what's up with is this number 4? I'm counting right. Taking out Trotsky. He's worried about getting rid of all possible enemies. Okay, so Winter Olympic Games. Okay, now this should be my version and not the version that I made that Black Ice is using, but I've improved it. Yes, this is my improved version. I now make it. Originally, I had these like fire every few days, but they weren't firing in order and weren't firing right. So it's over like a week's period of time. Hello, Kevin. How you doing? And so we're sort of discussing if those new starting here. Was Stalin going to attack Hitler, and was Barbarossa a preemptive attack? So Stalin, and you'll see we have some events talking about that are in TRE that you will see when we get there. In like 1940, what's this, 5? Okay, this has got to be a problem. Once a year, Willie Messerschmitt gets these bonuses, maybe once a month, maybe daily. So if Germany is strong, if Germany has a big, strong army here, and they're playing around with the British, sending out submarines, maybe lots of submarines, but submarines, and they're bombing Britain, and Britain sort of bombing Germany, and they're, playing games in Greece and Egypt. Well, okay, Stalin ain't going to attack them, but then I've sort of glossed over. All of Stalin moves in Eastern Europe, like Germany's moves in Eastern Europe, are all approved by each other, okay? This was getting this in Romania was approved by Hitler. Hitler puts in the Ribbentrop-Molotov negotiation Finland, Estonia, and Latvia in Stalin's sphere. Lithuania's in Germany's sphere. Right sort of along here is where the border is defined in Poland. And this bit of Romania, Stalin's going to get. That's approved by Hitler. They renegotiate after the Polish War because Germany does very well, comes in here. They actually have a parade here in Brest-Litovsk, a joint parade, a Soviet-German parade together and sort of meeting, got some photos from it. This bit of, and we need to do this. No, we want to do this here. Historical plans, BIS Geo, add them here, and now we can see it. The Bug River here becomes more the eastern border of German control. And by getting that, Germany gives up its sort of sphere of influence over Lithuania, moves to the Stalin. Now, because the Finns fight, Germany sort of kind of helped a little bit the Finns out. Britain sort of kind of helps the Finns out a little bit. But they're able to stall out the move there. But all of these moves are proved by each other. At least all these, these big moves. Now, Hitler's written his book, He's Going East. Hitler knows the Soviets have read his book. Hitler says multiple times, and many of you may also watch TIK, and he's right. Hitler is a socialist, but he's not a Marxist socialist. I mean, people today, all socialism is Marxism. But that's not really the case. Fascism is a type of socialism. Mussolini is named after his parents were socialists. He's named after Benito Juarez, the president of Mexico, who was not I don't think a socialist, but a sort of leftist type personality. And of course, Mussolini at one point is editing or running, or whatever you want to say, the largest socialist newspaper in Italy. It's sort of World War I changes him. From an internationalist to a nationalist, if you will, but different than National Socialism. Hitler's a socialist. He's not a capitalist, but it's a different ideology, but it is a social ideology. But Hitler hates Bolshevism and Marxism, partially because he thinks they're Jewish, and he hates Jewish things. So you define something as Jewish. If sunlight is Jewish, he hates it. Whatever you define as Jewish, he hates it. So he wants to move east. So he knows that the Soviets know that someday there's going to be a fight. That's his perception. Now, Stalin, his army fails to take Finland. The Finns are sort of losing, but the Soviets have taken huge losses. And the Soviets feel they need to peace out, because if they get bogged down in a war there, they become vulnerable to possibly Germany. So they peace out, get what they sort of need to have, and end that. And Stalin is reorganizing his army. And I don't know how well the Germans know all this, but they do know it to some degree, because there's still military-to-military contacts between them. We can go into some more of the details of the history of that later at some other point, but they're going on. They know they're reorganizing the army. They've also forward deployed a lot of the army that may look very threatening. I got to pause to talk like this. What? No, we'll get to. He wasn't pro-capitalism. Hi, Klaus. He was anti-capitalism. I'll get to that in a moment on Hitler. And TIK does a really good, a 2-hour video dissecting all this stuff. I'm just going to talk about it for less than 5 minutes in a moment. And so he sees the forward deployment of the Soviet army. So I believe that had, say, the West Front bogged down in a World War I-like situation, in 1940, and had been continuing, and the German army is being ground down, I think the Soviets will attack. I also think that, if America gets into the war, or if the British get into the war, and the situation's going that way, the Soviets will attack. I also believe that Stalin believes that someday there's going to be a war with Hitler. I firmly believe that. But I also firmly believe that Stalin, and this is why Stalin, I think, is so shocked. It isn't like, my God, I've been betrayed by Hitler? He didn't stick to his promise? I mean, not that he stuck to his promise over Czechoslovakia or Poland or anything else in life. No, he isn't shocked that way when he goes into a sort of meltdown and locks himself away for like a week or 10 days or whatever it is. I don't know, but he literally locks himself away and doesn't communicate for a number of days. What he's shocked about, in my opinion, is that he didn't expect Hitler to voluntarily go into a two-front war. Okay? So while Britain is still looking viable, they're still holding out in Egypt. In fact, they got pushed out of Greece. Yes, the British did. But Mussolini is about ready to lose it here in, North Africa, and it's only sending down Rommel as that's stabilizing the situation. Britain's looking strong. Not like strong like he's going to defeat the Germans, but strong like they ain't going down right now. I'm sure Stalin is monitoring the food situation in Britain and see, the rationing is severe and things like that are happening. Yes, but they're not about ready to quit. And I don't know if anybody, I don't even know if anybody has access to the Soviet, internal records, spying reports from World War II. I don't know if those have been declassified at all, if at all. I presume many of them still exist somewhere in some Soviet archive, but I've got to presume that they're assessing the situation, that Britain is not collapsing, and Australia, Canada, they're doing fine. I'll get into some of the other stuff here in just a moment. So he is, in my opinion, Stalin is shocked that Hitler's going into what would be a sort of a two-front war. That is what I think the meltdown is over more than anything else. So in 1941, was Stalin, in my opinion, getting ready to attack Germany? No. That's my current opinion. Now, my opinion, like in TIK, talks about that. I'm still trying to study National Socialism, trying to come understand it. And partially I'm watching TIK, but I'm also reading other authors and really firsthand research too, to some degree. So I'm really trying to understand the ideology, and there's different levels. It's sort of like an onion, National Socialism, what it means to Hitler and the top Nazi, and what it means to the average person on the street are two different things. And there's layers in between, what the SS think with all of Himmler's stuff, and what people like Robert Ley, the sort of Reich Minister of Labor, if you will, or somebody like that it may mean to. It means different things to different people. But I'm still trying to study this. But my understanding is that under those conditions, Stalin is not going to attack in 1941, partially because he's still reorganizing his army after the failure of Finland. Got to look at the history. Kalk and Gall, we can call that, the war, the sort of undeclared war between Japan and the Soviet Union. Gregory Zhukov is one of the generals out there in charge of it. Japan had been playing for years border, mostly with China and Mongolia, but where's the border games, sending patrols, either Japanese or Manchukuo army patrols, because there's not like, clear border signs. It's sort of the idea of whatever that, is it marked on here? I don't know. Whatever this river is here, that's sort of the idea. But, Kalk and Gall is over here. Is it marked on here? One of the provinces. But it's over in here, just where the border is. Well, the Japanese army in Manchukuo, which is not necessarily the same thing as, the headquarters in Japan, fights the war. The Soviets basically win it, but it's not a completely one-sided Soviet victory. The Japanese one of the reasons, they just don't have the motorization, and the Soviet tanks turn out to be a bit better than the Japanese tanks and a few things like that. So Japan does, but It's not a crushing Soviet victory or anything like that, but it isn't a loss. So they've had sort of that situation, and they've had the basically in size comparison crushing defeat, and especially crushing as in dead from Soviet soldiers invading Finland. So many die, and partially just of exposure. They're not getting enough water. If you can't build a fire in winter, you can't have water because the water freezes. So your soldiers will die of thirst. And if you can't, and I'm not saying they couldn't have fires and they didn't get water warm enough and stuff, but if you're like being sniped at and you're retreating or you're advancing and you don't have enough time to keep the water warm, yeah, everything's falling apart. If you get the idea, if your soldiers are, whether you're first, the commissars are advance, and you're running short of water. Oh, well, don't worry. Tonight when we stop at dark, we're going to set up campfires and whatever. Oh shit, we're being sniped at by Finnish, guerrilla, or not, they're not guerrillas, but Finnish forest fighters, not forests, whatever. You know what I mean? The guys out in the forest, the knife starts with the V, and they're being sniped at and they can't have fires lit or something at night. You start not even being able to have food, not to have water. People are dying from all this. Okay, so they get their butts kicked up here in winter. And, Stalin has gone through all those years of multiple show trials for the army, one set of show trials for the Air Force, at least, and one major set of show trials for the Navy. So he's killed off a lot of his good leaders, and all the leaders that are left are, afraid of their shadow, which may be literally their shadow, or the shadow is their commissar, their people's commissar, walking around behind them all day long and listening to everything they say and do during the day. Make sure that they are, not betraying the Soviet system. So they're all afraid of making a decision. Whatever, make a decision to defend, make a decision to attack. They're all afraid to make a decision. Stalin eventually realizes this, so he's trying to organize his army in 41, maybe 42. Again, Hitler and the Nazis sort of realize all this. I don't know how deeply they realize it, but I do know they know that it's going on. Hell, the show trials were, big publicity. The Nazis knew about them. Nazis know about how bad things went in Finland. So the Nazis know this. Right. So what is Hitler? So, again, do I think they're going to be attacking in 41? No. Do I think they are trying to reorganize their army to be ready for the coming war with the Nazis? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And I think the Nazis perceive it as this. I think both things are true. I think the Nazis believe that Stalin will attack when he thinks it's a good opportunity to attack. Now, what is that going to mean? I don't know. And I don't know that the Germans know what that is. But the Germans believe that when the Soviets think they're ready, they will attack. I also think Stalin believes there's a war coming with the Nazis, and he needs to get ready for it. Now, is he going to start that war in his mind, or is he going to get his army ready and wait? Like I say, Stalin is an opportunist. So if Germany's looking strong, he's not going to want to attack. But if Germany gets in a position that they are looking vulnerable, he's going to attack. And I think he would have attacked in 1941, had there been a major landing of the British, in Calais, and they're pushing the Germans back, and the Germans are having trouble holding them, and they're pushing in because there's so many Canadian and Australian divisions are just pushing in, and there's 3 or 4 American volunteer divisions that are coming in, and, you get the scenario, and Germany's actually sort of losing it, and oh my God, Germany's going to, maybe lose this thing. Yeah, I think he would have attacked in 1941. That's obviously something not realistic in 1941 for Britain, but if something like that existed, he would have attacked. So yes, I do see it as a preemptive attack, I do see it as an attack that is based upon the idea that timing is good, not necessarily timing as in what day of the week or month or of the year, but timing as in the conditions the Soviets are in. Now, I know TIK, and this is sort of a response to them, and this video is sort of changing into that. I know I'm seeing the chat move. I'm not reading it, sorry. I'm organizing my thoughts here. Talks about a lot of shrinking markets and talks about Goebbels' diaries and how they're not having food. Well, one of the reasons they're not having food is all the soldiers are being soldiers. Why is Italy's attack into Greece part of the reason why Italy is attacking the Greece is not going so well? At least in the very early stages? Well, a lot of the soldiers were back home helping with the harvest. Germany could have been having the soldiers still be soldiers, but putting them back on the farm instead of going to war in the East. It's sort of like if you have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Well, yeah, I think part of it is to secure resources, including food. But I think the Soviets are giving them as much resources as they practically can. For various reasons. Again, it would be another long lecture to go into why, but there's various reasons. So the Soviets are sort of meeting the minimum needs, I think. I don't think, TIK, I think, is, also, well, Hitler needed to start the war in 1939 because his economy, blah, 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 blah. Well, Hitler's economy was going to run out of steam and start having problems eventually. But I don't think 1939 or 1940 is that date. And things will get worse. But I do sort of agree overall in that it's, 1942, 1943, that if they keep building the way they are, the Army, the Air Force, the Navy up, they're going to have to go to war to secure more resources, or they're going to have to stop building their armed forces up at some point. And you can have a big armed forces and have, huge numbers of reservists that normally go to work in whatever civilian job, but, can be called up. So you don't have to keep it all a standing army. You don't have to keep it all expanding. But Hitler's expanding the army out. So yeah, the war sort of needs to come, but I don't think it needs to come quite as fast. And Hitler does not want the war in 1939. Hitler does not want the war in 1939. He wants the war in 1941, 1942, at least, if not 1943 or so. I don't think there's like a firm, date, but it's a few years off to build more submarines, to build more big ships, to get a proper Luftwaffe done, to really, get everything really ready for the war with the West, or later war with the Soviets. So part of the reason they're going east into the Soviet Union is ideological, both hating Bolshevism and Lebensraum. Part of it is resources, and they think they can secure the resources, but they're already getting resources fed to them from those same places. Now, maybe not in the scale they need or want, but those are reasons. But I do think they see it as a timely opportunity because they think it's going to happen one way or another anyways. So that's my evaluation. Hitler was pro-capitalism. No, Hitler was anti-capitalist. He was pro-competition. He was not a Marxist socialist, but he was a socialist. He believed that markets, where the fascist ideal would be or can be is a single source supplier for something, like one company most efficiently producing tires for the nation, say, and they plan out how many tires they need for, like Italy, if you're fascist Italy, and they produce that amount of tires because they know how many trucks are on the road, they know how many trucks and cars are going to be building, so they figure out and they produce just the right amount of tires. That's sort of my understanding of fascism. Hitler wants two tire manufacturers, or three or four, competing with each other not so much for money, but maybe someone builds a better tire or builds them more efficiently. He wants all this. He wants Hitler's belief in his socialism, his National Socialism, is a conflict resolution socialism in which there's conflicts between organizations. There's often within the Nazi Party. And to have winners and losers, and Hitler believes in struggle between groups makes you stronger. So if you only had one tire manufacturer, they're not going to do any innovation because they're doing their product, they're selling their stuff, it's good. So and maybe somebody comes up with new tire types or something and it gets better, but they don't do it. Hitler believes in this, conflict, and it's going to make things stronger and better. But he doesn't want exploitation of Germany or the German people or whatever, however you want to look at that, because he would see them as the same thing. And so he doesn't want exploitation. He doesn't want, greedy companies exploiting the people or overcharging or whatever, even not with, a single monopoly. So Hitler is interested in markets, but not interested in free market capitalism. I hope that sort of explains that bit. Klaus, if you're still around, let me read. Germany killed the Golden Goose. Yes, sort of. They were producing stuff without preparations. Well, Russia wanted to finish the defensive line first, attack. Germany, they were building defensive lines. 41 is not the year they were planning on attacking. Germans never commissioned large quantities of winter material. No, they didn't. Is TRE just events for Germany? No, it's not. It's not just events for Germany. I do things like you can see minister here. For a lot of the main personalities, I do specific as I judge it, and I'm willing to anybody give me feedback if they want to. They think something's left out or, as minister traits. So specific minister types, not just labels, but types for all these people as I sort of understand it and interpret into the game. Again, if you think something should be changed with one of these, I'm very willing to hear it. I'm not saying I will just do it because somebody says it. So there's ministers. We are going back to 8 brigade divisions. Right now we're at 7. We do have the technology here that will, though I'm going to be changing some of this stuff, go back to 8 brigades, and I'm also going to have the AI build for certain nations like US, like Britain, not for the Soviets, not for Italy, because they don't have big divisions, 8 brigade divisions. There's a lot of map improvements, a lot of stuff, and you can look at give a good overview of the first post in the thread about TRE, the Third Reich Events, what it does. It does a lot of stuff. It's doing more stuff now because the Black Ice team has gone in a direction that I disapprove of, so I'm steering in a different direction. So, So it does a lot more than just events, but events are a major element of the core. I hope that Kevin answers that question. Whereas I'm qualified to have opinion on these matters. I agree with you. Okay. Germany had gotten bogged down in France. He would have, invaded. Okay, I'm just trying to catch up on the chat. When would the U.S. have heard it? Like I say, it's just when Stalin thought it was a good opportunity, whatever that might mean, whether, if he gets in touch, let's just say, the U.S. doesn't enter the war, somehow the war is concluded in, let's say, 42 with Britain, whatever that means, Britain signs a peace agreement. Doesn't mean that Germany's conquered London, but it may just mean that Britain needs to peace out at some point, and say around 43 or 44, Stalin thinks his army is in really great shape and in the best shape it could possibly be, and he's getting word that either Hitler's going to attack next year or something like that, and they're building these new super tanks or starting to build jets. They've just had a prototype of a jet plane, and they're starting to put in production. And Stalin may go, oh shit, if we wait another 2 years, they're going to have huge numbers of jets and we won't have any. So we got to go now. There might, I don't know what the decision-making process would have been, but it would have been something like the best opportunity we have is to attack now, whatever that might be. And he would have done it. I think Stalin would have done it because I'm sure in my heart of hearts, I believe, and again, I'm not a Stalin, scholar or anything, but in my heart of heart, I believe Stalin believed Hitler's going to attack at some point during Hitler's life. So Stalin has to prepare for that. And whether he wants to fight a defensive war or an offensive war is just going to be down to the circumstances of everything. Pure socialism is markets controlled by the state. Hitler did not control the corpse. Well, Klaus, I think he controlled the corpse a bit more than you think. The corporations. You can look at TIK's videos on the subject. They go in a lot. There's a lot of control over what's going on in National Socialist Germany. But like I say, he does not. They end up with central planning because of Speer and Xavier Schwartz, who sort of is taking over some of the stuff from Speer, who had been sort of Coates' deputy, with central planning because of the war. Hitler does not want a centrally planned economy like you would find in Marxist socialism or in fascism. He wants a competitive thing, but without being capitalist. And he doesn't call himself a capitalist. He calls himself a socialist on multiple occasions. So believe him. But it's just not a Marxist socialist. Okay. And there's events for other nations like Italy, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, events for many other nations. Some of them you see, some of them you don't, because sometimes you'll get and you can watch some of the earlier series. See, like here, Himalayan expedition, going to Tibet. We'll do the more info, just gets a little more thing. Philip Holzman finishing the Autobahn. Coke. This is what the 6 Willie Messerschmitt thing showing up here. I did not touch any of this, so that isn't TRE, I don't think. So I've got to go in and see why that is happening. It's probably something like, oh, you mean like Deng, like as in Deng Xiaoping or something? I don't know. In China, to China. TIK is slanted. Look at his opinion on Manstein. Well, look, you can have a good opinion on one topic and a bad opinion on another topic. I don't remember what he talked about Manstein, so I can't comment right now. Maybe I watched that. Maybe I've watched a bunch of TIK stuff, but not all. I don't know whether I've watched half, a third, 2/3. I quite honestly don't know. I was saying fascists generally tend to distinguish productive capitalism from speculation capitalism, which tends to be Jewish. Yeah, I get all this info is in your Discord. No, actually, look at, Kevin, look on the thread in the Black Ice forum. You'll see a thread right now. It's on the first page for Third Reich Events. There, and because this needs Black Ice to play. And so that'll go into there. So, yeah, and so, if you're looking at the difference between National Socialism and International Socialism. Well, I'm going to stop this episode. The live stream is not going anywhere, guys. You don't have to leave unless you got to. But we're going to stop this episode from getting more than 2 hours. So I want to thank everyone who's made it this far. And before we do that, I'm going to save this here. Hopefully, yes, good. And we will be back next time for even more TRE with Black Eye.